for people to get their audio settled in. Welcome everybody. We'll just get started in a few seconds here, just letting people get their audio settled. Seems like a pretty good mass. So hello and welcome to today's webinar. Before I hand it off to our presenters today, I just want to cover a few quick logistics about this platform. I know many of you have joined these sessions before, so you're familiar, but in case you are new, this is Zoom webinar, not Zoom meeting. That means that your cameras and microphones are disabled by default. So you don't have to worry about interrupting us, but it does mean that if you want to interact or ask questions, you'll need to use some other functions. So you've got 3 of those. The most important one is the chat. And an important thing to keep in mind with chat is that it defaults just to panelists. So if you want everyone to see your message, you want to select all panelists and attendees from the little drop-down selection there. You can ask questions in the Q&A, and those can be seen by everybody, although you can ask them anonymously. And you can upvote and add your own comments to existing questions. And then finally, you can raise your hand if you have a technical issue, or if during Q&A it might be easier to actually ask aloud a question. So without further ado, I want to hand it off to Ann Craddock.
Thank you, Mike, and welcome everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to our July EDGE user group. We'll give you an update today about what's been happening in EDGE and what to expect in the near future. After we give our presentations about our updates, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions, and some of the members of the IESC are here today to talk about best practice and resources within EDGE for evaluating international credentials. So let's start with a poll to find out who's joining us today. So please take a few moments to respond to our questions. What segment or area of international credential evaluation do you belong to? Is this your first user group session? And are you an EDGE subscriber? We'll take a few moments to give you a chance to respond.
People are active early. We're already at 85%, so I'll just give it another 10 seconds here.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like we have mostly people who work at institutions and quite a few newcomers to our monthly session. Welcome, great to have you here. And then it looks like most folks are already EDGE subscribers. So that's great. It's really great to have some new people and give you a chance to hear what goes on EDGE on a regular basis. So right now I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ann Koenig, and I'm an Associate Director with ACRO in the International Department. And it's my pleasure today to introduce you to my colleague, Drew, who is the coordinator or manager of EDGE. He's the person who is responsible for making sure that everything, that the content of EDGE is correct and coordinating how that content gets input into EDGE. And our host for our session today is Jasmine Saidi Kunert, who's the chair of the IESC, the International Education Standards Council of ACRO, and she is also the founder, president, and CEO of ACEI. Jasmine, please take it away.
Thank you so much, and hello everybody. Welcome to the monthly EDGE user group webinar. It's just wonderful to be here with you, and as always, I really appreciate the contributions from all the EDGE users and the questions that you present to us. As Anne introduced me, I currently chair the International Education Standards Council. We are a group of volunteers, and we have 6 members that are voting members, and you will see their names and pictures on the slide here. Today, joining me today on this panel, one of the voting members is Robert Watkins from University of Texas, Austin. Robert, many of you know, is just our guru of credential evaluations. And it's just wonderful to be in the company of these experienced individuals who have contributed greatly to our profession, have presented at many conferences, have authored publications, are training many people through the ACRO institutes. So you are in good hands with the folks on the IESC. We also have ACRO staff, Anne Koenig, as well as Drew Carlisle, who are, who help us with making sure the information that we have received and reviewed and approved are in consistent with ACRO standards, as well as they're being posted on the EDGE user guide, on EDGE, I'm sorry. And then we do have our current fellows for 2021. These individuals have been selected to be part of the IASC Fellow Program, and they are currently working on the Bologna 3-year degree projects across the European continent. Our fellows are Haley Klimenage and Rebecca Jacob. We're just delighted to have them with us. And our former fellows were Rosalie Hancock and Loida Gonzalez Utley, who are working on finalizing their research on the offshore medical schools in the Caribbean. We also have an observer with us, Dale Goff, who is Director of Evaluations at Foreign Credential Service of America. So that's about it about our kind of configuration. But how do we work together is that we receive your queries. Mostly Drew presents the questions that are posted to from EDGE users. Typically what we handle is anything that is new about a new credential that's been introduced in a particular education system or grading scale, or if there's maybe an error in content on country profile. This information is then reviewed by our members. We do additional research if necessary. And after that, we vote. Everything is voted before it's posted and updated on the EDGE country profiles. So what you see goes through very serious vetting by our group. And that's why sometimes a question that is presented to us may take a few months. Again, I have to remind everyone, we are a volunteer group, and so we are doing this because it's a passion project for us, but it does sometimes take a while to collect all the necessary information that will help us reach a final decision. And once an information is updated, a new credential is posted, it's based on a majority consensus among the members of the IESC. Today's agenda will address some of the countries that we're currently working on, some that have been completed and some that are works in progress. We will be touching on Venezuela, Rwanda, India, Nepal, and then we will be looking at the additional topics that we address every month, which is the International Activities Listserv, the International Institute, and of course we'll close with the Q&A. So let's begin with the first item on the agenda. And this is Venezuela. And I will allow, is it Anne or Robert?
It's me, Jasmine.
Okay,
thanks
there
so
you
much.
go, Robert. Thank you.
I guess those of you that have attended this webinar in the past have heard a familiar refrain from me. And that is that when we rolled out EDGE some 15 or more years ago, there was a bit of rapidity in the process. In fact, so much rapidity that we tended to leave a few things behind. Some things were omitted. One of those things was the grading scale, a 10-point grading scale in Venezuela. Up until now, we've had only the 20-point grading scale, post-secondary, I should emphasize, by the way, in EDGE Venezuela. which is the scale that's used by the vast majority of institutions. But what's amazing to me is that it took two incredible professionals in the field, Alex Popovsky of Credo and Barbara Glavi of SDR Evaluations, to point out to us that we had neglected the 10-point scale that's used at Universidad de Oriente. And the terrible thing is I knew this. As most of you know, I've been in this field for quite a number of years, and having just observed yet another birthday the other day, I can assure you that I've been around a while. Point is, since the very beginning of my career, I remembered that Oriente had a 10-point grading scale in Venezuela. Now, why I never actually looked in and noticed that we missed it, I don't know. But anyway, these two great individuals, Barbara and Alex, brought it to our attention. And so now Drew Carlisle has inserted in an edge. And the key elements are, it's a 10-point grading scale. 5 is the minimum passing grade. And as you can see, that's a multiple or a derivative of the 10 that's the lowest passing grade on the 20-point scale. So there you can see some uniformity. And as with so much of Central South America, with a clear exception of Brazil, there is no D concept in Venezuela. That's true of the 10-point scale as well. And unlike what you're going to hear about on some of the other items that we're going to be talking about, this scale is now in EDGE. Drew put it in there. It's under post-secondary alternate 1. And the facts that you see here are included in that. The scale is actually 9, 10 is an A, US grade of A, and then 7, 8 is a B, and then 5, 6, and of course, if there's any grading that would be a fraction of that, it would go 5.0 to 6.9, sorry. Though that's the C range, and again, there's no D range. Below 5 is a failing grade. And so I'll leave you with the thought that if you go in there now, you will actually see this 10-point scale in EDGE Venezuela. And with that, Jasmine, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Robert. Next is, again, a grading scale from Rwanda, and this would be going to Anne.
Thanks, Jasmine, and hi again, everyone. So we have been working on the grading scales for Rwandan post-secondary education, and we're going to be updating that information thanks to a question from a colleague. One of the things to be aware of in Rwanda is the huge reform of their educational system and the change in the university sector from the system that used the actually Belgian-based education with French language and English to English language-based system. So the University of Rwanda was formed in 2013 as the legal successor to the former National University of Rwanda. So when you see transcripts from Rwanda, transcripts that were issued during the era of the National University, NUR, are copies that are certified by the current administration, the administration of UR, University of Rwanda. So when you see a transcript, you might see both wording about the NUR and the UR. And the important thing to know is that the NUR was legally the national university of the country, and through some legal changes and a change in their system, they created the new University of Rwanda, UR, and the NUR is gone. So the UR is the current public university in Rwanda. It's also important to know that before the change, Rwanda had a whole system of higher institutes and institutes which were post-secondary non-university institutions, and they have all been incorporated under the University of Rwanda as colleges of the university or institutes of the university. So when we talk about grading, We're also talking about different grading systems for the different eras of the higher education. During the era of the NUR, as I mentioned, that grading scale was based on the Belgian model of grading because Rwanda had historically been a Belgian colony and colonized by other countries before that. But the system that they took when they gained independence was the Belgian-based model. However, under the new system, under the University of Rwanda, it is an Anglo-American model. So that uses a different system of grading. And then private institutions in Rwanda can develop their own grading systems. So what's the most important thing to keep in mind? Always check the grading scale that's on the transcript you receive. And so because there's a multitude of possible grading scales, the national scale being the University of Rwanda, and also the private institutions, we're working on updating the grading scale section of Rwanda in EDGE. We haven't quite come to completion on that project, but that's what's coming down the pike for Rwanda. That takes care of Rwanda, and I will send it now back to Jasmine.
Thank you so much, Anne. I know Rwanda was quite a task, and you really helped us with, collecting the necessary information on the grading scale. Before we go any further, I just wanted to tell Robert you have a huge fan base. They're all wishing you a happy birthday in the chat, so I hope you're seeing that. So a happy belated birthday
Thanks
to you.
Everybody out there. Hopefully there won't be another one of those for a couple of years.
No, there's no leap year in birthday. Sorry for you. All right, let's look at India. The question about the grading scale that is adopted by the Central Board of Secondary Education and that of the Council for the Indian School Certificate Exam came to us from individuals who had attended an ACRO training session recently. And they asked IESC as to how the grading scale came about in terms of the one that is posted on India's EDGE profile. And that brought us to looking at the grading scale that we currently have on EDGE. And we realized that there are some clarification is needed, because what we are not addressing is that grades are also reported in terms of percentages. And it's difficult to kind of see that on the current distribution that we have. So the decision by the IASC is to report two separate grading scales, one for the CBSE and one for the CISCE. We have managed to come up with a consensus for the grade conversion scale for the CBSE. Currently, we're working on the CISCE because we're still finding some different scales that are showing up. So our task is to look at as many primary examples that we can of the grade scales used, and to then reach a consensus on what would be the grade scales. So stay tuned. We'll have some more updates on this, hopefully by our next EDGE user guide meeting. But the point is that we want to have two separate grade scales to make this more easily user-friendly for those of you who have questions about this grade scale. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. This is Nepal. This also is an issue that we decided to revisit because we realized that there are two pathways of entry to the master's program in Nepal, and we needed to provide two different credential advice based on the entry requirement. So as just a quick background, the master's degree in Nepal requires 2 years of study and also completion of a 1 year of national development service, but academically it's a 2-year program. There are two ways of entering this master's program. One pathway is completion of a 3-year bachelor's degree or completion of a 4-year bachelor's degree. The credential advice currently that has been approved is that if admission is based on completion of a 3-year bachelor's degree, the master's degree will represent attainment of a level of education comparable to a U.S. bachelor's. If admission to the master's is based on completion of a 4-year bachelor's degree, this master's degree will represent attainment of a level of education comparable to a U.S. master's. Additional information on this degree, the master's, is that it does include research and training, and it allows the holder to continue their studies at the postgraduate level or seek employment in the country. So if you review the placement recommendation on Nepal, you will see 2 credential advice, one for those who enter the master's based on a 3-year bachelor, and one for those who enter it on completion of a 4-year bachelor degree program. And that's it on Nepal. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Jasmine. This is Drew speaking. As mentioned in the introduction, we have ACRO fellows that are working on a project on Bologna credentials, and our former fellows are finishing up their final report on the Caribbean offshore medical schools. We are in the final stages of production on that. That's about to be submitted over to ACRO, and when that does come out, you will be able to find that on the IESC page. You can see the link there. There's also past fellows work presented on that exact same page. I know that July 7th is in the past, but I wanted to mention that the CXC just had a webinar talking about the impact that COVID has had on everything that they're doing in terms of protocols and procedures. That webinar was actually moderated by Julia Funaki, one of our colleagues here at ACRO. It was part of that connection that had the CXC reach out to us to give us an update for our emergent news, which is information that we gather that would be useful for all of you when you're trying to evaluate different credentials. It'll give you more context for what a student is going through, what's happening in an education system as in real time. And the CXC was able to provide really good information on what's going on with all of their exams that we've included in the international exams status report. That is a subcomponent that is not all of the items that are on the international exam status report are reflected in our emergent news items, but this status report is your one-stop shop where you can go to find all the information on secondary and post-secondary exams when we've learned about it. If you find more information that's not reflected on that document, we welcome and would really appreciate hearing from you. Jonathan Cownwin is our colleague who's assembling all of that, and you can send any of that information along with your source material directly to him at cal-nguyen@acro.org. So another thing that you might really do when you find good information, maybe you have a question, maybe you want to share something, you can use our international activities listserv to connect with other colleagues in the field. I want to let everyone know that coming in the very near future, we're going to be changing the email address that you're going to be sending your questions and your answers to. We're switching this over to a Google group, and it's going to make it so that it'll be easier for you to search back through the archives, and it will increase deliverability to everyone that you're trying to get in touch with. Friendly reminder that the International Activities Listserv is where you can go with questions about developing your own institutional policies, questions that you have about practices on how to evaluate these credentials. And when you reach out to us through the EDGE Contact Us button, that's a great place to tell us if there's a grading scale that needs an update. If you come across a credential that you've never seen and isn't reflected in EDGE, those are the types of things that the IESC is going to be able to work on. As Jasmine mentioned, this is a volunteer group of folks that work on this with a passion. And so just because we haven't gotten to your question doesn't mean it's not queued up, and we appreciate your patience as we work through all of this. Speaking of Jasmine, let me hand it back over to you for a second.
Thank you, Drew. Well, this is a wonderful publication that I cannot just speak more highly of. I don't know what to say, that this is a must have for everyone who is involved in international admissions, credential evaluations, recruiting. This is a must-have. Just to read a kind of a quote from the intro of this publication, which is the Guide to Bogus Institutions and Documents. Corinne McIntyre says, "The world of fraud is a dynamic one, populated by entities and individuals who adapt like chameleons and constantly reinvent themselves to do whatever is necessary to make a fast buck." And unfortunately, the more digital we have become and the more automated, the more of these bogus institutions and fraudulent documents we're going to be seeing. Having this publication at hand gives you the necessary tools, we hope, that will kind of make you a little bit more aware and alert as to how to detect fraud and what to look out for. Let me just read you some of the titles that have been addressed in this publication. We have chapters on diploma mills and fake degrees, transcript fraud, accreditation mills, because just as there are diploma mills, there are also accreditation mills. And unfortunately, just as there are accreditation mills, there are evaluation service mills. There's a chapter on fraud at the secondary school credential levels, for electronic academic records, how to fight fraud, and so forth. The authors are just incredible people that I've known throughout my field of international education. We have Alan Ezel, who is a retired FBI agent who was involved in the diploma, it was called DIP scam of the FBI at the time when there was resources allocated toward how to go after these sort of diploma mills. There's John Baer, author of the Diploma Mill publications, Alan Contreras, Alex Morawski, Emily Tsay, Ann Koenig, and posthumously Ed Devlin, George Collin, and also yours truly here. It's just been really great to be part of this publication. I encourage everyone to submit your request for an order. It's a great book to have. Okay, thank you. Let's look at our next, this would be Drew to talk about the Baden-Württemberg Seminar.
Jasmine, thank you for that. But I think Anne might even be a better person to talk about this seminar. It's going to be virtual this year. We're going to have it back in person. We're planning on that in 2022. But Anne, would you like to take it away?
Yes, thanks, Drew and Jasmine. We're really excited to be able to offer the Baden-Württemberg Seminar, which, by the way, it's okay if you just say BW. We're excited to offer the BW Seminar this year virtually. You may be familiar with the seminar, maybe you even applied or maybe have been accepted and have been on it. It's a program that's been run for about 30 years with sponsorship from the state of Baden-Württemberg in Germany. So in Germany, education is administered by state, and the state of BW is very interested in connecting with US higher education partners to facilitate orientation to the German educational system, to help us in terms of our evaluation of German credentials, to sponsor student exchange programs. So the seminar has been in person for the last 29 or 30 years, but of course last year due to COVID, it had to be canceled. So this year, the team that sponsors the Baden-Württemberg seminar, that's the ministry itself, the host university from Germany, every year one university in the state of Baden-Württemberg is the host of the program. And then we have ACRO coordinating, and that's now me, and then a representative from NAFSA coordinating. So we got together and talked about the feasibility of doing a BW seminar as a virtual program. And we decided that, yes, that would be a benefit for our members. So on their information about the program is on the ACRO website. You've got the URL on the slide. And the date of the actual program, the virtual program, is going to be Wednesday, October 27th. It will be a 3-hour virtual program, and it will include some introductory material about the German system. It will include an orientation as far as virtual visits, maybe some recorded visits, maybe some live visits with institutions in Baden-Württemberg, and then some breakout rooms where you'll have the opportunity to actually meet and chat with representatives from the variety of higher education institutions in the state of Baden-Württemberg. Baden-Württemberg has the most variety of types of higher education institutions in all of Germany. So this is a really great opportunity. When the program is in person, the program itself is funded by the Ministry of Science, Research, and Arts of Baden-Württemberg, and the participants only have to pay for their travel from their home to the location in Germany where the seminar starts. This year, the travel expenses, of course, will be much less, but plan for a 3-hour seminar online, and with the opportunity to meet representatives and learn about the German educational system. There is an application form that needs to be filled out, and that will be available in August. The information is on the website. And as I mentioned, the date of the program is October 27th. And there's a place on the website where you can sign up to be on the email list to receive updates about the seminar. So there will be more development of that website coming, more information coming in the future, but save the date, October 27th, and sign up for updates if you're interested in the program. And by the way, if you participate in this year's virtual program, you are still eligible to apply for the in-person program when that comes back. And we're assuming that next year, 2022, we will be able to have the program in person again. So this would be a great orientation for this year. And if you're interested in the in-person program, you can look forward to next year.
Hey, thanks for that, Anne. So one of the things that I remember from the poll earlier was that 95% of you that are here on this webinar are already Edge subscribers, and we thank you for that. For those of you that are not, if you are interested in obtaining a trial subscription, there is some information that might be useful for you. You can navigate over to the About Edge page, and you can actually get a free trial subscription of Edge. You can look at it for a week, review it, see if it's going to be useful for all of your purposes when you're evaluating international credentials. And for those of you that do already use it, I have a poll that I'm kind of curious how many of you use some of the new features here in Acro Edge 3.0. Are you using the bookmark function in Edge? Did you know that that's one way that you'll be notified of emergent news articles that are associated with your country, or any of those updates that happen to credential advice or to any of the grading scales? Do you read the Edge alerts there on the homepage of Edge when you log in, or do you go right to the page where you whatever you need to reference at that point?
And I'll leave this up for another 10 seconds.
Thanks for that, Mike. And those were my questions that I had for you. I was curious if you had any questions for us. I haven't seen too many that have come into the chat. I saw lots of birthday wishes for Robert. But if you have any questions for members of the IESC, observers of the IESC that we have here on the webinar today, we'd really appreciate those. So for those of you that responded to the poll, are you using the bookmark function in Edge? 35% of you are using it, and I hope you're enjoying it. About 50% of you are not. If it's something that, if you already know a system like the back of your hand, I would still recommend bookmarking particular countries just in case there's ever an update that comes in that you might be unaware about. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you can log in to Edge, and on any page within a given system, in the upper right-hand corner, there will be what looks like a little digital bookmark. you can click onto it. It'll change over to purple, and that will add that in as a new bookmarking feature into so that every time that you log into Edge, you'll get notified of any changes for any of those systems that you've mentioned. There's also a useful video on the Edge user guide, and the Edge user guide is linked from every page within Edge along the top banner. There's a link to the Edge user guide that has a helpful video that'll walk you through this. And the Edge alerts in Edge, that's something else that just when you log in on that homepage, I would recommend scrolling down a little bit, and you'll get updates on the most recent substantive changes that we've made within the database. Just ways that we're trying to keep you informed about the changes that we are making. And yeah, on to your questions.
Hi, this is Anne again, and I'm here to facilitate any questions and answers that we can help you with. I see one question in the Q&A. So this is Heather. Heather, thanks for your question. She says she has a student from Pakistan who has a 3-year BSc in agriculture, so a 3-year Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, and then after that has the 1-year Bachelor of Education. That's a very common combination we see. So is this combination equivalent to a U.S. bachelor's degree? The 3-year BSc, Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, plus a 1-year B.Ed, Bachelor of Education. Let's see, Jasmine or Robert, would you like to handle that question?
Sure. I'll try it, and then Robert, maybe you too. But what I always do is I first check to see what is the minimum admission requirement to the Bachelor of Education program. If it requires the 3-year BSc for admission, and it's 1 year beyond that, then yes, the answer is that the two combined, as far as when we evaluate it, we recognize it as a bachelor. But if admission is less than a 3-year bachelor, then we do not. So I'm just going to look at Pakistan on Edge to see what we have on the Bachelor of Education, if there is an entry for that.
While you're doing that, Jasmine, I'll just toss in that,
Thank you.
and generally the same combination comes up with India a lot. And at UT Austin, we do not accept 3-year degrees from India, Pakistan, and other countries, but let's stay with those for graduate admission or consideration purposes. And so when we say that to an individual who then pushes back, obviously, we then try to give them the options that they have to enhance the 3-year degree such that they would become eligible for consideration. And one of the ways to do that is to get a 1-year Bachelor of Education. Now, admittedly, that would be for someone who's only interested largely in graduate degrees in pedagogy or in education, but that's certainly an option. And that's the way we do. We look at the 3+1 concept as acceptable. The reason why this is acceptable as opposed to, say, 1 year of a 2-year subsequent master's degree is, even though they are both 4 years of post-secondary study, they do only one of them, the B.Ed, represents a capstone achievement, a degree awarded at a level that we recognize, 4 years or more, and that's the Bachelor of Education. Over on the other parallel, the 1 year of a master's 2-year program is, though it has 4 years total after high school, it doesn't have a degree awarded that we recognize because we've already determined that 3-year degree is insufficient. Jasmine, back to you to see what you found in Pakistan.
Yes, I found that at minimum, its admission is a 2-year degree. So it's a 1-year program, the Bachelor of Education, after a bachelor's degree that could be at minimum 2 years or 3. So the fact that a minimum of a 2-year bachelor can get admitted, even if it's a 3-year, the credential advice is to consider this BEd as 1 year of undergraduate study. So it does not appear that we are recommending the two to be combined for a bachelor.
And I suspect that the reason for that is because of the possibility that a 2-year degree holder could enter that BEd
Exactly.
program.
Because
that
that
won't
is the
happen.
minimum.
Yeah, that won't happen in India because India did away with their 2-year general degrees probably in the 70s or thereabout. Theoretically, by the turn of this century, Pakistan had done the same. I'm not absolutely certain of that. If indeed, though, that you have a 3-year one and then your subsequent BEd, even though, as Jasmine just pointed out, it's not in Pakistan Edge, it's still worth giving some very serious consideration to allowing that 3+1 scenario with a degree awarded after the one being possible graduate admission.
Thanks, Robert. There's quite a number of questions also in chat as well as our Q&A. So let's see.
Maybe, this is Anne speaking, maybe I can address the question about Haiti.
Yes, please.
Someone asked, I'll read the question from Diana. We're hearing that students are having problems obtaining their transcripts and other documents, academic documents from Haiti. What are other universities doing? I can give you the experience on our side of ACRO. What we require is that the student have their university send university certified copies of their documents, of their transcripts and their diploma. And it's important if the person has finished their program, their licence, to get the diploma as well as the transcripts, because we see it quite often that the students do their 4 years of study toward their licence, but they're also required to do a final paper that they have to defend, which is called a memoir. And it's very common for a student to leave and never finish that memoir. So you can see 4 years of study on a transcript, but the person did not get the diploma. So anyway, we require that documentation. The student can send a copy to their university, have it certified by the university, and then have it sent to us. And in general, they pay fees for this, and we receive the documents by courier, usually by DHL. And it's a very cumbersome process. It can take a long time, and it can be expensive for the students. And of course, we're always concerned about authenticity of the documentation. That's what I can offer you from our side.
Thanks, Anne. That's very helpful. There's another question on there on Rwanda. Do you want to tackle that, or should we? I don't think it's to do with the grading scale.
Rwanda, oh, that's about the secondary education.
Yeah.
Yes, the Workforce Development Authority is the authority or the office in Rwanda that's responsible for vocational secondary. So, and I don't know, I don't think we have much on edge on that. So that's something we're going to have to add, put that on our agenda, Jasmine.
Yes.
For the national,
I know we're a little bit, I think when it comes to vocational, I have to say that's one area that Edge may have some limited. For some countries there are, but not for many. So I think the focus has been very much on academic credentials.
Jasmine, I would agree with that. And I would say a lot of that's the fault of institutional thinkers like myself, like Johnny, Gloria, and others that were, began with Edge. And that's because of our bias towards academics versus vocational technical. And the beauty of the IESC right now is that we have some representatives, including Jasmine, of course, that represent credential evaluation services that see far more credentials outside the academic sector than institutions do. And so I think we're going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we are working on getting better about our technical and vocational entries in Edge. And I can just conclude this thought by saying simply that some of this is moved along by the Bologna signatory countries that all are putting together qualifications frameworks where they crosswalk as I say, educationally from cradle to grave, from K to PhD, they're trying to crosswalk the academic sector with the technical vocational sector so that they can present a level playing field for those that have credentials outside the academic sector. Jasmine, if you want me to look at Tracy Ford's India grading question that also was in the chat section, I can.
Yes, please. And just before we go to
Oh, yeah.
yours, if I could just request our attendee who brought this issue up about Rwanda, if they have that credential at hand, the National Advanced Certificate of Technical Secondary Education, if they could send a copy of that, a redacted copy, take all the sensitive information off and send it through the EDGE portal, then we have a sample of the actual document, and that would make it easier for us to consider it for inclusion in the country profile.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Jasmine, thanks for adding that, because that's exactly what I want to say to Tracy as I try to get an answer for her. And I would love to see this transcript. And the reason is, after you redact it, and the reason is that what we're seeing in India with respect to grading issues is more the 10-point grading scale that was introduced in 2015 by the University Grants Commission, the so-called CBSC choice-based credit system grading scale. I've not seen a more US style 4-point. I've certainly seen that in Bangladesh and Pakistan, but I've not seen it as much in India. So I'd love, Tracy, to see this transcript that you got that has that. But to attempt to answer your question, I guess I would approach, although I'd like to see it and see how they lay out the grading scale. If indeed there is this final award of first division, second division, what have you, based on the traditional 100% grading scale in India, then what I would answer you with is this: do for that what I do with the 10-point choice-based credit system, which, by the way, there's a blurb on this in EDGE India now. And that is, take the grading scale that they are using on the courses, and if they provide you some sort of a concordance table for the traditional scale to show you what grades on that 4-point will equate to a first division or upper second or lower second and so forth, then that's going to be what you want to follow. Because in the end, they're going to award that degree based on this 100% scale, this by divisions. And also get ready for the possibility, as we've seen with a number of institutions using the choice-based credit system, the 10-point scale. What we've noticed is that institutions are awarding degrees in the first and a second division, but not a third division. And that in fact, 50% can sometimes represent the lowest passing grade, which, as you know from the traditional Indian grading scale, is not the case. The 40 to 49% range, and sometimes into the 30s, are passing grades at the third or pass class level. So keep an eye out for that possibility when you're dealing with Indian university transcripts and mark sheets.
I just responded to a question on CHESIC and CDGDC from China. The question is, I'm typing it, but I will say it out loud. The question is, from China, are CHESIC and CDGDC being taken in place of the official documents from institutions via the student or directly from the institutions? And if they're being taken from CHESIC and CDGDC, how are they being received, via parchment or email? To answer your question, CHESIC and CDGDC are standalone verification sites recognized by the government of the People's Republic of China. They do not use a third party to transmit their official verifications. They do it directly. They can do it by digital transmission or by mail. But currently my company uses both, and everything is received, at least from CHESIC, digitally. So they don't use another party. They come directly to you. So we accept the verified documents via these two sources. Anyone else have experience with them? Robert, do you want to add to this?
We're sort of different. We are part of a pilot project put on by the National Student Clearinghouse that includes Stanford University, UT Austin, and Virginia Commonwealth University, where we agreed to use CHESIC to provide verified documents from China. So we request all of our admitted Chinese applicants to get that verification from CHESIC. And so I did one presentation in Prague with CHESIC and National Student Clearinghouse for EAIE, which we explained how that whole process worked, but that was several years ago. We're still part of that program, and it's worked fairly nicely for us.
And if I can also add from the ACRO perspective, CHESIC is using Digitary now to transmit their docs. So if you are an official recipient on the Digitary portal, you can arrange to get the CHESIC documents, only CHESIC, not CDGDC. You can get the CHESIC documents through the Digitary portal. And also the question about should you also require documents from the institution? Our recommendation for best practice is yes. Documents from the institution and the CHESIC and CDGDC verifications.
And just an update today, I received notice that Digitary was purchased by Parchment. So that just changed things a little bit.
That is news. Good.
That's news, yeah. I mean, they're still maintaining their brand, so it's still Digitary. It's the same kind of process, but they're under the umbrella of Parchment.
One final note on this Chinese issue. It is my understanding, and perhaps others out there, either participants or on the panel, can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that while originally CDGDC and CHESIC had different functions with respect to documentation verification, CHESIC now has the ability to do the whole thing. In other words,
verify degrees.
What CDGDC was doing and CHESIC was not, now CHESIC is doing.
Yes.
And I raised that simply to say that our applicants seem to be self-selecting into CHESIC as opposed to CDGDC, which is fine because that's part of our part of our pilot project.
Thank you. There's another question here that is about if the EDGE team is exploring micro-credentials and badges.
I saw that from Patrick Leahy,
yeah,
a ACRO Cuba project colleague.
Hi, Patrick.
And so I'll let Ann and Drew answer that.
Not as far as I'm aware at this time. Drew, do you have anything?
At this point, that landscape is still developing. As you know, it's not something that we've seen a lot. Sometimes the easiest way for us to incorporate new information is to receive it, to look at that. So when we reach out and we're looking for you to submit documents, that is something that would be helpful for us when we're making these determinations about what to include within EDGE. So we talked a little bit about some vocational credentials, and Robert mentioning the qualifications frameworks was an excellent point, that is a way to better understand the way that those credentials are seen in system. We don't really have a lot of information about how all of the micro credentials and badges are seen in systems all around the globe yet. So that's not something that we've included, but we're open to it as it develops further. We've got just a couple more minutes about this. I did see there was a question about language and general information about different cultures. That's a great type of question to pose on that international activities listserv, where you can connect directly and you can ask those questions, and maybe someone has a great resource. Whoever the anonymous attendee is that submitted that question, if you're not part of the listserv, you can go to log into any page within EDGE, except the homepage, and at the bottom of any of the other pages, you'll be able to sign up for the listserv. And like I said, we will be switching that over. So if you sign up for the soon-to-be old listserv, we will get you migrated over to the new one. I think we have time for one more.
Margot Tachik has asked about NCAA, and it's a complicated question, Margot. Her question is basically figure out if a prospect has been enrolled full-time at foreign institutions. They're having difficulty with a particular Spanish institution, indicated that full-time status changes between programs and schools. And our athletics folks are wondering if this is fairly common. I guess I deal with this a lot at UT Austin because I have to deal with the international athletes. Jen Mink is in the webinar too, and if she wants to throw something in there as well, because she was more recently on the NCAA International Student Records Committee than I was. But when I deal with this issue, I'll be honest with you, I will take whatever, and in the case of Bologna compliant countries, that means ECTS credits. I'll take whatever ECTS credits are there. And two things leap off the page at me when I look at that. Number one, I know what the full-time load for ECTS credits is supposed to be. And generally speaking, in Bologna signatory countries, we find that they invariably stick with it. Unlike their American counterparts, they tend to stick with the full loads of 30 ECTS per semester, 60 per year. That's not always true, and athletes would be obviously the ones that would sort of tamper with that average load. The second thing I look at then is what is a full-time load at a U.S. institution, a U.S. Division I, Division II member institution, and the answer to that is 12 hours is the lowest, the minimum load that you can carry to maintain that scholarship. And maintain full-time status for all the benefits that athletic scholarships bring. So to me, I take those ECTS, I convert them to U.S. Carnegie semester units, and then I use those two items to do it. If it's 30 per year, clearly I've got a full-time load that semester, 30 ECTS. If it's less than that and it comes out to 12 or more American semester credits, then I feel comfortable in pointing out to my athletics people, okay, there's your first semester full-time enrollment.
Well, thank you very much for all the questions that came in. Sorry we weren't able to get to all of them. Robert, Jasmine, Anne, really appreciate everything that y'all have been contributing. And just to drive this for you one more time, you can stay informed with us by joining that mailing list, getting on the International Activities Listserv, and even if you're not yet a member of ACRO, you would be able to sign up for Connect, which is a newsletter, and there's a whole lot more that's available once you decide to become ACRO members. The final thing that we'll mention today, Anne was going to talk just briefly about the Gloria R. Nathanson Research Fund for International Education.
Thanks, Drew. Yes, I just want to send everyone a reminder. This is a program that we started a few years ago, a research fund named for our excellent colleague, Gloria Nathanson, who contributed so much to our profession and was such a supporter of research. We have a fund of up to $1,000 available to support research that we use in our credential evaluation work. Either someone working on a full country report or doing updates on a particular country, writing a paper on a certain subject of interest. Maybe you are a graduate student in a program where you're doing research on a particular country or aspect of international education. Maybe you've got questions that have come up in your office. There is a process by which you can send in a proposal and apply for funding to support your work. Another thing might be, in the past we thought about this as travel expenses. If you wanted to travel to the country to do your research, now we do a lot more armchair research. But for example, if you take time off from your job to work on some research and you want to be supported financially, that would be another way in our COVID environment that this funding might be of help to you. So please visit the website. There is information there about the fund itself, about how to apply, about what particular criteria we're looking for, and there's also a sample of a project proposal that you can use. So we really encourage you to make use of this fund.
Thank you all so much for attending today. Our next webinar will be, as usual, the third Thursday of the month. So looking forward to seeing you later in August. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Thanks, Drew.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
everyone.
great day. Thanks for attending today.